everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Combat Talk. I am your MMA host, Sophia Foyer, and this week is a little bit different. We got another interview for you guys. We got an MMA commentator, we got a Jiu-Jitsu competitor, we got the man that just recently interviewed Miguel Torres, my old coach, or one of your favorite fighters. Yeah, I said it. Now we're here with the one, the only, Mr. Christian Reynoso.
How are you, Sophia? Thank you for having me on.
Oh, of course, we got to get one of the best commentators around Chicago area on the show.
Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Well, I've taken a look at your stuff. You've interviewed some hot shots between, Ian Parker, Chael Sonnen. I feel a little lowly here. I'm like a little old me, but again, thank you for having me on.
It was nothing. It was just,
Ah,
stuff up and getting the job done, as you know. Well, to first start off the interview, I kind of want to go into how you got into the MMA world and what your experience was as a fighter before you even became a commentator.
yeah. I've been around a long time. I started fighting. I think I had my first fight in 2004, 2005. So I've been around a long time. Like back then, it was like my first few fights were tournament style. Like I fought multiple times in one night. And it was like it felt kind of like the OG UFC days. Like I remember I fought a guy like in a karate gi, like it was like those sort of eras, right? Um, but also at the time there were of course the Miguel Torreses were already making a name for themselves, like the Jeff Currans of the local area were starting to sprout. But it was a good era. Like that's when the UFC was just starting to pop off. So the local scene was really growing. Um, Yeah, I had a really good run in the amateur days, you know. I got to win a lot of the local titles. Um, Transitioned to being a pro in 2011. Um, I didn't have like I didn't make the best decisions personally when I turned pro. You know, like I took some bad fights. Um, just my pro career didn't go the way I wanted it to go. I was 1-3 as a pro. Um, I won my debut, and then it's just like took a bad fight. This fight, I blame the ref, but there's like always a reason, right? Um, Without going into it too much more, I had like since then I've had 7 knee surgeries. So I never meant for my MMA career to end. My body just kind of ended it for me. Um, Fast forward to 2021 when I first got my opportunity to get into commentary. I was always just like a big commentary nerd for like other sports. And I even had like my favorites in MMA, like as a big John Anik fan, and of course Rogan, and like the old school guys like Mauro Ranallo and all those guys, Boss Rutan. I love those guys. So I hit up a lot of old promotions that I used to fight for. One of them gave me a chance. Shout out Fight Card Entertainment, the show I used to fight for. I was their champ, and I hit them up, and I was like, "Hey, when you guys come back and have your first show after COVID, give me a crack on your mic." You know, they gave me the first shot. May 30th, 2021. I did my first commentary gig. Love at first mic. Just that was it, you know? And is like the chip that was on my shoulder about the failed MMA career as I always saw it, like finally fell off. Because I was like, this is it for me, you know? We've hit the ground running 4 years, probably 100 shows in. Just keep grinding.
Now, for you, when we talk about your commentating experience, especially when you first started, who was really the person for you that gave you that advice when you first started commentating that you're like, oh, like, I don't know about this. Maybe maybe should I do it? Maybe should I not? Like, who was that person for you that gave you that advice?
Very specific. It was Ray Flores. So Ray Flores, who went on to be like he is one of the biggest commentators in combat sports. Like he for a long time, he was the lead play-by-play at One Fighting Championship. You'll see him all over doing, he's interviewing Manny Pacquiao last weekend. He's doing a lot of the biggest shows, still a lot of the biggest boxing shows in the world. He got his start in this scene. Um, and when I was fighting in this Midwest MMA scene, he was the commentator, he was the ring announcer, he was the guy. So um I got to see that, there was like a path right? Like out of this local scene if you grind hard enough. So I observed him from afar. I was always kind of friends with him. And it's funny you should ask that, Sophia, because I reached out to him before my first gig and I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, Ray, but we were always friendly back in the day. Um, I'm trying to get into commentary. I got my first show. Any advice? And he just really took me under his wing, and like our friendship has really grown since then. So he's been invaluable and super duper helpful.
So I was noticing from your social media that, you've covered EFN, you've covered Anthony Pettis' company. The one thing I want to ask you is, I've seen those companies, I've gone to those fights. I wanted to know your personal experience with Anthony Pettis' company. Like, he has some outstanding fighters, and they are going pro and they're going to these high levels. I kind of want to know, what was that call like, and what was your first experience like with his company?
Yeah, so yeah, you meant like you said, I work for a lot of different shows, and some of them are televised, like like you mentioned, EFN and some other ones. But yeah, my first show for Anthony Pettis was definitely it was a huge step up, and it was like, obviously you go from doing the regional scene to doing something on UFC Fight Pass, and from the second you show up, it's like, okay, yeah, now I see there are levels to this. Um, yeah, I think you'd hear the same reviews from me as you'd hear from anybody else on staff to anybody that's fought for them. It's five stars, like it is truly the definition of a feeder to the UFC because it's that high level, the matchmaking is that sharp, the promotion is that good, and then not to mention at any given show, you're rubbing shoulder as a fighter or as a fan, you're rubbing shoulders with Dustin Poirier, John Jones, Cain Velasquez, or Anthony Pettis himself. And it's like, if that isn't like the perfect springboard to the UFC, like I don't know what else, what is.
Now, for you, when you talk about things like that with Anthony Pettis, what do you feel like his company is doing different than a lot of the other local organizations?
Well, I think it's important to make fighters feel their importance right away. You show up and you're not just another number on the card. You show up and, whether I'm talking, at least, how about this? From the broadcasting perspective, we interview everybody, be it from the first fight on the prelims all the way through the main event night, and everyone is treated the exact same way, especially, from my perspective, certainly. Everybody gets the same amount of attention. Um, but across the board, the stars to the amateurs are are recognized and their importance is shown to them. And that's obviously just one thing, but as a guy that used to fight, I see that. I'm on the other side now. I'm part of the show from the broadcasting side, but I see the way they treat their fighters, and I tell you, Sophia, that certainly has got to make a difference from their perspectives to feel that they're part of something big and that they're part of something special.
Well, going off of that, I kind of want to know like your daily like week, like not your daily week, but how's your day by day for commentating? Like what you do to prepare for all these events? Because I saw you post on your story, man, you got cards upon cards, like you're trying to write everything you down that you can. I kind of want to know, what is your preparation like for these fights?
Yeah, so it's a lot. It's a lot, every show like I said, I'll treat every fighter on the card the exact same way from the prelims all the way through the main event. And some are easier than others, and truthfully, 4 years into the game, I'm still figuring out and fine-tuning my own research. Um, because the landscape is changing. People have different ways of teaching us and telling us about themselves, whether it be through social media, their own YouTube channels. You know, maybe if I find an interview of a fighter that you've spoken to, I'll dig that up, right? And I sit down and watch all that. So it's a consumption of everything as much as I can, on top of finding fight footage, right? Um, so let's say in the case of a newbie, right? Like a newer fighter, that's the trickier ones, right? It's easy if I'm If I'm talking about somebody that fought in the UFC, I'm type their name into Google and everything shows up, right? Um, but I try to have just as much notes, like you said, you see all those cards and stuff for everybody. So I'm going through Facebooks, I'm going through Instagrams, I'm going through old newspapers, like high school wrestling results. Sometimes I'm digging into like old football stuff from high schools because when I sit down with that fighter the day before for their interview and they think that I'm just about to learn about them, and I can say, all right, correct me if I'm wrong, you were a linebacker at blah, blah, blah high school from 2021 to 2022, but then you switched, right? Then you played. And I watch them go like, whoa, like that's what it's about. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier, making sure that every fighter knows they're special, right? So I dig all that stuff up when I'm doing my homework on these guys. Um, it's no exaggeration. I try to put at least 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours towards every fighter. Um, and when we're talking about a card with like 40 fights, you're talking about 3 to 4 hours per fight. So I'll try to knock out a fight or two a day. And I have a kind of a database from everybody that I do homework on. I save it. And as we've gone on over the years, well, now that it's built up, I can go back and say, oh, I already have notes on this fighter. But then I pull them out and I do it all over again. And I look to add and I add and I add and I add. So it's time consuming, but it's a labor of love and it's great. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I honestly felt really connected to that because when I first started doing fight predictions, that's all I would do. Like it took me 3 or 4 times to find a system that actually worked because you notice a lot of people, they want to know everything, they want to know everything, but it's like when it comes to fighting, you don't know how they fight. They don't know their style of how they fight. So that was like kind of a learning curve for me, even though I train in MMA and do jiu-jitsu, like you're learning about other fighters, you don't know the person. So whatever you can dig up on that person, the more the better. So for you, what I want to know is, do you think how do I word it? For when you cover these fights for the local fights, what are some of the challenges as a broadcaster that you feel like when you talk to the fighters, you feel like you want to make them more comfortable? Like, what do you do to make them more comfortable?
I think I just remind them that when I'm sitting down to talk to them, um, I'm sitting down, and this isn't to like elevate me from any other broadcaster by any means, by any means. I just love to be able to relate to them and look across the table and be like, it's Christian, it's like the ears, the scars. Like I sat where you were sitting not that long ago. What's up? Like I think it's important that they realize, especially now that everyone's trying to, and I joke about like, I'm just trying to get clicks over here. But I'm not trying to like make a viral moment on somebody else, on somebody misspeaking, or I'm not trying to like catch somebody trying to come off, maybe coming off the way they don't want to, right? So I try to connect to these guys and girls uh, at their level, right? Because I joke that like, I'm a nerd in a suit sitting on the outside of the cage, but trust, I don't feel comfortable in this. I'm more comfortable being you guys, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, Sophia, but that's kind of the angle I find works the best.
No, that answers it perfectly. Like, I feel like when you do the sport, you feel like you can help the fighter out. Like, okay, we're not. We might be on television, we might be recorded right now, but it's okay. We can act like we're just normal people. And I think that's like a big issue today is like when we talk about Chael Sonnen and we're talking about Daniel Cormier, we talk about Dustin Poirier, people are like starstruck. And they're like, oh my God, like, but I get it. We're all fans. We're like, we would love to all meet those people, but they are just normal human beings like us. They just happen to do something that we all love. And for you, that's kind of what I want to get into more is when you do your show now that you do interviews, I kind of want to know, we were talking about this earlier, but I want to know what was your perspective change, how you do interviews? Like, what was that change for you that you were like, maybe I'm interested in doing this?
Yeah. Um, That's a more loaded question than than you actually realize. So I've worked for a lot of the local shows for a long time. I have nothing but words of gratitude for any show that has ever put a microphone in front of me. Um, but certain shows, um, I've gotten the vibe in the past that certain shows have specific agendas, and I understand with the way they want me talking to fighters. And if it's promoting a sponsor or something that's part of the show, that all makes perfect sense to me. Sometimes things don't make sense to me, and sometimes things don't always align. Uh, and that's fine. Like I will always work with any instructions I'm given, and that's cool. But my wheels got turning recently when a show or somebody made a comment about like, I'm blessed that I get to do so many shows. And somebody made a comment, like somebody from a show made a derogatory comment about some fighters or some shows that I'd been doing, like, and I'm like, kind of rubbed me the wrong way, right? And it made me think. I was like, at the end of the day, I have questions that I want to ask. And I want to direct the spotlight back to these fighters. I don't have an agenda. I don't have a show I'm trying to. I mean, I guess I have my own show, but it's like I have no sponsors. I'm not making any money here. Like this is this is about a community. It's about something bigger. And and hopefully I can ride the coattails of some of these guys. And as I watch them blow up, maybe I can climb as well and make it to the big show as well. But at the end of the day, I don't have an agenda. I don't have, and when I realized that I couldn't always just do my thing, it just felt inauthentic, right? I've since parted ways with that show. I don't want to be a part of stuff like that. So right now I'm working with shows any show that I'm working with, I'm really, really happy to be working with. We're all in line with one another. And also now I have this vehicle, Reynoso Knows So. It's my own thing. And you know what it's like. Like when it's your own thing, it's like it's really cool. And like of course you want everything you do to grow, but when it's your own, it's that much better, you know?
I totally understand. Like when I did my rebranding of the show, the one of the tough things when after I interviewed Shale, like a lot of people had like doubts and stuff. I was like, I worked hard to get to what I needed to. And I kind of put the same mentality I have for training and competing in jiu-jitsu. Like I had to struggle. I had to hear people making derogatory comments because I'm a female in a man's sport. And I had to deal with that for years and years. And I have my inspirations and I have all this stuff, but I remember like I'm staying true to myself. I can't listen to people's comments because I'm doing this for myself and I'm doing this for the fans that want to see these questions or hear, what's really going on in these people's lives. So like when I talk to the camera, yes, I interviewed Shilson and I don't care what you think. I said it and that's how I am. But you have like people have to understand, but like between me and you, like that feeling. People are gonna make comments, people are gonna say things, but when you have your own show, it's such a pride. Like it's such a pride that you carry around knowing that, yeah, I did this. Or maybe I edited this, or I got these people to talk. And for you, what I want to know is you competed in jiu-jitsu before, just like me. So I wanted to know what was it like that first experience and like up until you got your surgery recently? Like what was that feeling of competing for you? What was it like that experience, especially with like Fight to Win and all this other companies?
Yeah. So like how did I feel as a competitor back then?
Yeah.
Or like yeah. So it's funny, like I am very honest, especially now that it's all kind of back there. Uh I was terrified. I was always like like I knew that I was the kind of guy that could rise to the occasion, but I was always like I don't know about you, but do you ever like have a win or even tap somebody in the gym and you're like afterwards you're like, "Holy smokes, I did that."
Oh
Like,
yeah.
right? I swear through like what was it? I had like 15 amateur fights. I won 3 titles as an amateur. I won my pro debut. I swear every time, every fight, I was like, wow. Like, I did that. Like, I swear I was surprised every time because I was just always like, every fight, I was always like, God, I wish I was just in the audience. Like, I was that guy, you know? Um, and it's fun now that I interview a lot of fighters. Every now and then I'll tell a guy that, and they're always like, bro, me too. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's normal.
Oh
I
yeah.
felt the same way whether it was an MMA title fight or a local jiu-jitsu tournament. That's just who I was. Like I always just, you know, but I thrive with the pressure, so it's like I never minded it.
I kind of relate to that because, when you drill a technique and you feel comfortable in your own game, you're like, okay, I got this. Like in class, like I'm gonna try to do this and this, and you might get it in class, but as soon as you do it in the competition, you're like, this is worth like 3 months of me getting my butt beat in practice. Like I remember, like I hit an ankle lock in competition. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm seven at the time I was 17. I was like, I'm doing this as like in the adult divisions and I can actually do this. I was like, this is worth like 3 months of like learning how to do this and defending from people that actually do that. So, but I kind of want to know your opinion on something. The show UFC BJJ. They're obviously doing something pretty big right now. They have their own cards and stuff. I kind of want to know like in jiu-jitsu, who are the people that you look at and like you find entertaining?
Well, there's obviously the big names that are like going to stand out, like off the top of my head. Like you mentioned UFC BJJ, and like there's a big spotlight obviously on Mikey Musumeci and Andrew Tackett. I think Andrew Tackett is like super exciting. Like I love um not that Mikey doesn't, because obviously Mikey hunts for finishes as well. But I just love Andrew's style, and I really love guys that are constantly hunting for finishes. Um, I also, I'm old school, so I like the top players as well. I got on board with all the Berimbolo stuff a couple, as that sort of stuff took off in years past. But I like seeing, I like I like the guys that are willing to engage with the wrestling, on top. And so guys like the Andre Galvaos, that is an old school dude, but like you've seen him in years past, like his game is so well rounded and he can play the top game. And even obviously the Gordon Ryans of the world that can do everything, right? So I guess I'm giving you kind of a handful of fighters. But more importantly, I'm kind of pointing you in the direction of the type of fighter that I like. I like the finisher. I like the old school. Um, I don't mind the guard pulling. It's not my favorite.
I gotta agree. I don't like guard pulling. I gotta say that to the camera. You guard pull, you need wrestling.
Ah.
Sorry. It's so true. I love my ankle picks. I love my inside trips. I hate guard pulling. It's so annoying. Because what are
But
you gonna do? Just
well, the thing is if we were like really, let's just be completely honest with ourselves, Sophia. If we both had like the guard of like a Mikey Musumeci, we'd probably have different opinions. Like,
I
let's just be
wish.
honest with ourselves.
Oh my gosh. If I could play ankle locks and guard pulling like that man, and as much as he's a spaz, dude's phenomenal at jiu-jitsu. So I gotta give him his credit. But with that being said, the reason why I bring it up is you see UCBJJ, you see Craig Jones, the CGI Invitational. I was covering it, I was going over it, and I think the one thing that stood out to me is the payouts. And I think that's always been a big issue with jiu-jitsu, especially is you're not getting paid as much as you do in fighting. And I kind of want to know what's your opinion on Craig Jones and the whole competition that he's doing?
I think Craig's great, man. I was at the first ADCC, like the one before the whole Craig Jones thing, like so two ADCCs ago. And it was amazing, right? Like it was so clear that jujitsu was just at like this whole nother level. Um, and then there was like all these like all the rumors came out about people not getting paid properly and all that sort of stuff. And shortly after, Craig Jones was just like, "Fuck, I'm gonna do my own thing, right?" I think it's great. It's not like it's funny because yesterday I interviewed Joey Deal, who's like a local jujitsu black belt that competes at a super high level, and I was like picking his brain about like the edgy side of jujitsu now, right? Like there's controversy linking to gyms into tournaments like CJI versus ADCC and all this stuff. Um, that's not like really who I am. I guess I'm a little more vanilla than that. But I don't mind it. I eat it up as far as entertainment goes. So I think it's great. And I think it's great that he's making a point to say, like, I don't need to take it all. I'm gonna give it all and I'm gonna be as transparent as possible. And if that's as he's displaying, well then like what's not to love about that?
I completely agree. I mean, me and you both have competed. We've seen things go south and we've seen things go really well. And I've competed for ADCC, the Opens, and I've been through some wild matches. I've been through where you get hit on the ground, the ref's gonna let you go there for a minute and you gotta go back on that mat. I know what it's like. It's not the easiest, I'm telling you people. It's really not.
Yeah.
It hurts. It's worth it. It's worth it because you have that love and passion for it. But with that being said, like watching especially like the Rutulos, I'm a huge fan of Cade Rutulo. I don't know about you,
Yeah,
but
I'm sorry, I should have mentioned them. I'm sorry. I'm a huge fan of the Rotolo brothers. Been watching them since they were tiny. Sorry, I should have go on. Sorry.
Good. But with that being said, they were obviously really big in the IBJJF, and I compete in the IBJJF, and I love competing for them. It's very structured, it's very organized. When we talk about the Rutulo brothers, when we talk about Cade especially, we're talking about very fast-paced and in your face. His matches last year at CGI were some of the craziest I've ever seen. This man is hitting flying whatever he can
Anything?
get. Everything. Like Christian said, everything. Watch the matches, you can know for yourself. But I kind of want to know like your style in jiu-jitsu. Like what is it like? Is it you're more of a wrestler? What do you do? What's your game? What submissions? Do you like to wait? Do you like to have patience? What is it?
Yeah, so like I mentioned all my injuries because of that, like my game has had to kind of evolve over the years. Like I was for a long time, especially like in the early stages of my MMA career, I was like a triangle guard guy, right? Like I was pretty good at taking an ass whipping from the bottom and then like still throwing up a submission at some point. So like I was a guard player for a long time, right? And so like as the knee injuries started to rack up, obviously guard playing the guard becomes less of an option. But also as I like I mentioned, I got more into the wrestling. I think that was around the time I was starting to fight, like turn pro and fight tougher guys. And I was like, I don't want to be on the bottom anymore. Um, and then so we're going through my eras. I went from being the guard player to like I started really becoming just like an old school. I wanted to be Hicks and Gracie. I wanted to get on top, take your back, choke you out, send you home. That's it. And then I also did like in the years past, like I said, I got really into like I love all the berimbolo and all the like inversion type jujitsu. Needless to say, not really into the leg locks. Don't really want to play with that fire given my, you know, situations. So I'd say I try to be as well-rounded as possible, primarily sticking to the top nowadays. Like I want to, I'm getting up there in age. I got some gray hairs. I want to use that old man strength on you a little bit. I want to get at the top and give you some of that.
I'm so glad that's not me. I'm so glad he's not doing that to me. I'm good. But I see the plaques in the background for wrestling. Like, I kind of want to know what was your introduction to wrestling? Because I obviously in jiu-jitsu and MMA, that's a big key factor to have wrestling. Like, it's more of a control thing. It's more, oh, you get the takedown, you won that round maybe. But I kind of want to know what's your introduction to wrestling? What made you fall in love with it?
Yeah, I was a pretty mediocre wrestler all 4 years of high school. I started as like a freshman in high school. Um, like as you know, a lot of people start really young. These plaques you see in the background, these are my coaching plaques. So like I coach my kids' wrestling team. Shout out the Maine Eagles. I'm one of the assistant coaches for our team. And I realized when I started at 13 years old that if I ever had kids and if they ever wanted to wrestle, I was going to make sure they started when they were tiny because I got introduced at 13 and I was getting my butt kicked. Um, Interestingly enough, the guys that were kicking my butt when I started, a lot of those guys and myself all went on to be MMA fighters. Guys like Chase Beebe. who was like a WEC champion. Miguel fought him for the title in the WEC. How was ironic as that? That was like he was my year and we wrestled against each other. Like so that was my introduction to wrestling was rough. I was 1 in 17 my freshman year. And then I think I was 10 in maybe 10 and 10 my second year. And then by my senior year I was decent, but I wasn't like great. Um, but I was already doing kickboxing before I started doing any of that. So, and I was kickboxing throughout my high school career while I was wrestling. So even though MMA hadn't blown up yet, I was kind of already doing MMA and accidentally, I was doing jiu-jitsu, I was doing wrestling, and then I was going to kickboxing at a gym that also had a little bit of grappling. So, despite my introduction and my wrestling career being pretty crap, it was exactly what I needed to like hit the ground running in MMA just a couple of years later.
Now, with you saying that, like when you figured out, you put it all together. Like we look at the Ken Shamrocks and the Frank Shamrock. Like Ken didn't even know. Like he was just that was what he was used to because when you, for the people that know what pancreas is, I know I'm young and I still know what it is because I actually watched this sport. So, but yeah, when you look at pancreas, like that's all they did. But it wasn't, when you went to the ground, it was just submissions. That's all you fought for. You didn't really play the jiu-jitsu. You went for the submission, and when you stood up, it was just okay. Let's throw hands. But for you, like when you put all that together and you look at the MMA fighters, especially today, what do you think a lot of people like their opinions like feel like you should either be one background or you should be all round fighter? Like what is your opinion on that? Like should you be an all around fighter or should you just be one thing?
I think it's I think it's really important, obviously. You got to be well-rounded and you got to know at least you got to know everything, right? It's the days of just being a specific like I'm just a jiu-jitsu fighter. Those days are kind of behind us. But what I will say is this is I think this is a mistake I made and it's a mistake I see a lot of young fighters make as well is like I had a jiu-jitsu background. It was my jiu-jitsu background that got me all my accolades as an amateur. And then when I turned pro, I was like, all right, now time to be GSP. Like, no, like why? Like that wasn't what got me there, right? Now I wanted to throw hands and be well-rounded and I wanted to wear spandex. That doesn't have so much to do with that. That had more to do with the GSP thing. But like the point is, I wasn't exactly like I was so obsessed with not being a one-dimensional fighter. And I think it's okay to like lean into your specific skill set, you know? What's his name? He just fought in the UFC a couple shows ago. Brazilian guy Walter Walker, right? I think his name is. He's won 3 fights in a row with a heel hook. Are you gonna tell that guy that he needs to be more well-rounded? Like, yeah, he needs to be well-rounded, but it's okay to lean into a skill set, right? Like, you can't do it too much. You can't Ryan Hall it, or you're gonna get, Ilya Tupuria is gonna show up and smash you in the head when you're rolling for leg locks. But it's okay to lean into something, like no one's telling Khalil Roundtree, stop focusing on your striking so much. It's like, I think it's okay, like remember what got you to the dance, right? And then have plan B, plan C, but don't be afraid of plan A.
I completely agree I think like when I was growing up, because I'm an '07 kid, but I grew up around fighters and that's all I was used to is the wrestlers and the strikers. But when we talk about that, like especially looking at Marab, when we look at Marab, I'm a Sean O'Malley fan, so people don't come for me, but I did root for Marab twice, so I have to say that. But I know Christian's mad. You don't like that,
Oh,
but
that ooh.
I,
I'm a John fan, man. But no, I love Rob too. It's okay. Go on.
I feel like the reason why I am is because of his wrestling and his striking. When you work with a team like Matt Serra's gym, you're gonna be well-rounded. And the one thing too, like I was talking to a lot of my friends who don't train, and they were kind of asking me questions with how it works. And the judges might not always be on your side, and you probably don't want to be like, oh, let me have the judges. Like that's not ever what a fighter wants. But when it comes to Marop and Sean, I think a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way because they're like, Sean should have just stood up. He should have just stood up. If it was that easy, don't you think he would have just stood up? But I mean, Christian and I both know that. But also, when we look at Marab, his wrestling is phenomenal, and that's what got him these fights. But when we talk about Khalil Rountree, his fight against Yuri actually just got announced. And now Alex Pereira is fighting Magomed. And I kind of want to know your opinion, the Khalil Rountree, the Piri. What's your take on that fight?
Man, I think those are such exciting matchups. I am a huge Khalil Roundtree fan. And that's not like I think Yuri's great. I just love I love guys that are able to like kind of reinvent themselves or kind of just like resurge in their career. And I feel like Khalil Roundtree is one of those guys. We saw it like after he took like it felt like a career-changing trip to Thailand, and he came back like just this like devastating striker. Not that he wasn't already, but like it just and a guy like Yuri Prohaska is just like such an interesting guy. Like aside from being so skilled, like he's just this, that the samurai spirit, right? And like I don't know if you saw, like he was in Rise. I think it was at Ryzen in Japan with Mark Coleman a couple months ago. They're like smashing gongs, like wearing sumo outfits, and it's like if anybody else did that, they'd be like lit up. When Yuri did it, everyone's like cool, man. Like, yeah, because he's just such an interesting cat. And like, I love that matchup. I obviously am leaning towards Roundtree. Um, I think it's a great chance for both of them to kind of remind everybody, like, who, these guys are, where the top of the division still is, right? Because the tension tends to go towards a lot of the other guys, the Pereiras and such. And sorry, Pereira and Glyov. Tough.
Oh yeah, we both just had the same reaction. I was laughing. Yeah. No, I'm looking, Tom Aspinall's gonna fight Sorgan.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of us are John Jones fans and he's, crazy person, but we can't blame him for his career. Like he is the GOAT, in my personal opinion. We could talk about our top five. But to get off topic, when we talk about Cleo Roundtree, I was actually watching Demetrius Johnson's podcast and the other day, and he interviewed Cleo, and it's just funny, like to see him come as far as he did from the Ultimate Fighter to where he is now. It's crazy, and to hear his story is even wilder because like there's just some things you don't think fighters would actually tap into and talk about. But his story, man, like I think COVID was just one of those years, like when you watch those fights, honestly, like one of my favorite fights is Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier because it's not even because you can hear everything, it's just as a striker and me loving striking, that's like knowing everything and seeing everything was just the most fun thing for me. But when we talk about Strogan versus Tom Aspinall, what do you think we're gonna expect?
Man, it's just I feel my gut, like my knee-jerk reaction is like, well, I think what we're gonna see is we're gonna see Aspinall wait for his opportunity to take it to the ground and then just get him out of there. I mean, when this whole like you're only as good as your last fight phrase that you hear a lot of times. Unfortunately, I feel like with a guy like Cyril Gane, it's like you're only as good as how quickly you got choked out by John Jones. And that's so not fair because, like you said, John is the GOAT, like by a lot, and he'd probably do that to almost anybody, right? Um, but, but Aspinall is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's huge, he's fast. And I just don't know. I don't know what Cyril Gane can bring to the table if Aspinall is able to negate, any like like any early exchanges. Like obviously Cyril Gane's an explosive striker. He's very fast as well, super athletic. And these are heavyweights. Everyone's super dangerous, especially in the beginning. But I feel like if Aspinall can kind of weather an early storm, which I foresee, um, I think Aspinall eventually, gets it done with his ground game and probably tapping into Cyril Gane's gas tank a little bit.
Now, with that being said, when we talk about Alex Pereira, there's been rumors like maybe he'll move up to heavyweight, maybe not. This man can gain as much weight and then loses fast, but cutweights aren't the easiest for everybody. But when we talk about that, we don't know if John Jones is coming back or not. We don't know one day if he's retired or one day he's coming back or if he's in the USADA testing pool. But with that being said, when we talk about Tom Aspinall, like without John Jones, who do you think is really a big testament in the heavyweight division?
And he's passing these tests. I think the UFC is bringing him up properly. Sometimes guys, their persona is too big for their own good, you know, or their accolades from other shows are too big for their own good. Take like a Pitbull or a Michael Chandler. They're just gonna get tossed into like these big fights right away. And sometimes fighters don't get the chance to grow or shine the way they should. Um, Cortez is different, like he got to the UFC with a handful of fights and they're building him up slowly. So I think he's gonna be a good one to watch. I think um I think we can't forget about guys like Curtis Blades, you know, that are always just kind of perennial top fivers, that find ways to stay hungry. Um, Realistically, more immediately, if John Jones doesn't show up and Pereira gets the job done against Ankalaev, they'll toss him up to heavyweight. Like really, like it's I think do you ask that because you think the heavyweight division's a little bit in trouble as far as star power?
Not star power. I just think there isn't that much for Tom Aspinall, honestly, besides John Jones. It's not the heavy hitting. That's not even what I'm concerned about at all. It's just Tom's beating everybody pretty much, even besides his injuries and stuff. Without looking at that, this man has knocked out, he's hit everybody pretty much with all of his power and made a star out of himself. I'm just worried, is Pierre going to be the one that does it, or is Sean Jones going to be the one that comes back and does it? So,
I don't know, man. I mean, did you hear? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you heard like as soon as there was talks of the UFC going to the White House, John Jones is like, "I'm
Mhm.
back," and then
Oh yeah.
Dana White's like, "Okay, but not for this. Like, I can't count on John Jones to headline a White House card and not John Jones it, you know."
Yeah, when I was messaging you for this interview, I was actually making a video covering it, and I was just laughing because it's like, okay, when we talk about it as a fan, yes, we would love it and all that stuff, and we would love John Jones, we love the Michael Chandler versus Connor, but when you think about it, like logically, there's just no way that's gonna happen. Like, where are you gonna put it on the lawn? Where are the fighters gonna change? Where can you have fans? Can you not? Because you don't know if someone's gonna sneak into the White House and like do something. Because a lot of the fight fans are not the best to be around, and you don't know what's gonna happen. But with that being said, one of the last questions I want to ask is Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. It was a legendary fight. I watched it live and it was a brutal fight. Like it was either going to be a draw or it was going to be one of them. But Max Holloway is my boy. I love Max and I love Dustin, but Max was my boy in that. What do you think is next for Max?
I think whatever Max wants is next. Um, I don't think it's ridiculous to say that he's right up there for another shot at Ilya. Like, why not, right? I don't know off the top of my head, like, what's another fight that makes sense with the momentum that Max Holloway has right now? With Ilya chirping about, Max holding that BMF belt for him too. Like, I'm sure you caught that as well. It's like that fight makes itself. Um, Max is so it's just crazy to think he's still so young. What is he, 32, 33? Like it's just he's still essentially hitting his prime right now. Um, I think at 55 he's just gonna be a perennial, like he's gonna be a top three, top five guy for many years to come. And I don't foresee it being long before the Ilya Max fight happens again at 55.
Yeah, I was very sad when that first fight happened because Max was my boy, and it was a very sad day for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
Christian. So, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that one hurt. And like getting back to the Holloway Poirier fight, that was so hard to like pick. I couldn't pick. I guess I was leaning towards Dustin because I just did an APFC recently where Dustin was there and he was like so nice and like of course I'm like oh like I lean that way now, right? But like I'm a huge Max Holloway fan as well. Um yeah, seeing him have that I was very happy to see him move up to lightweight because I don't know if you agree, Sophia. Like, yeah, seeing what Ilya did to him at 45, those last few weight cuts, it was bad, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think lightweight has always been the fight for Max because he's always done so well in lightweight. But it's like when you watch the fight, you're like, "Oh, who do I want to win?" And then you're like, "Wait, let me change my pick. Oh wait, no, let me go back. Oh, let me know." But like you're going back and forth, and I can't even complain. It wasn't a horrible fight at all, and nobody went to the ground. Nobody did. And it was just crazy to see that battle. Like, what Dustin's getting knocked down, Max is getting knocked down, and it was just crazy. And for Dustin's last fight, you can't even be mad that, like, even though he lost, I don't think anybody truly lost in that fight, in my opinion. But the last question I want to ask you for this interview is, you've done a lot in the MMA world. You've competed in jiu-jitsu, you've competed as a fighter, you commentate. What was the one thing that you stuck by your whole career, even to this day?
Yeah. Um, I think this goes a little bit, that's a deep question. That this goes for my fighting, my commentary, um, my professional career, being a dad. Like it's you know, you hear your reputation precedes you, right? Like, I've always been kind of a put your nose down, work hard kind of guy. And that's not something you like really talk about. It even feels weird saying it. That's something you do and people notice it, right? Not right away. Like, it's the type of thing, it's a type of trait in a person that like it's not about like making a splash right away. It's about being the one sometimes that's still there, gutting it out, grinding it out. It took me 18 years to get my black belt in jiu-jitsu. Um, like I said, I was 1 in 17 my first year of wrestling. Um, before I got my first commentary gig, May 30th of 2021, I recently went through my inbox and I saw that I started messaging and emailing people asking for an opportunity to commentate um, almost 4 years before that. Like, and I was just sending things out and I never quite stopped. And since I started commentating, I love to do the big shows, but I want to do every show. My goal is the UFC. And to get there, I got to be as good as possible, right? So I need reps, I need practice. I need to be the sharpest, the best, so that when the call comes and because I believe if I keep grinding hard enough that the call will come, as long as I'm still that put your nose down and work hard guy, it's gonna come, you know? Um, that's not me being cocky. That's me sticking to my philosophy that my reputation as a hardworking, honest, especially honest person of like good character, like all these things, these are the things that I've always stuck by. You know, when I was a fighter, you don't want to be the asshole in the gym. Granted, I was kind of rough in the gym. Like I kind of was that guy sometimes. But as a whole, I was a good guy in the gym. In my career, everyone knows me that like I work in finance. I've been in trading my whole life, like for 20 years now. Honest dude. Like that's what I want people to know about me. So I hope that answers your question. Just I hope that will always apply to everything that I do, and I hope my kids apply it as well.
I love that. I think everybody, whether you're in MMA, whether you're competing, whether you're a commentator, we all have our own philosophies. We all have our mentalities of what we believe in. But I appreciate your time and I appreciate you being on the show. So if we want to stay in tune with you, what you're doing, what you're commentating, how can we find you?
Yeah, definitely. So my Instagram is the Christian Reynoso, so easy enough. My YouTube channel that I just started. Let's see, can I get? I didn't even have my logo in the shot. There it is. It's Reynoso Knows So right there. So you head over to YouTube and find that. It's Reynoso Knows So. I've been putting out, I think I'm 7 episodes in. Most recently, I sat down and talked to Sam Alvey, who's a Karate Combat heavyweight champ. That was cool. We did a breakdown of the Karate Combat heavyweight tournament like before it happened. So that was really badass. So yeah, Instagram, the Christian Reynoso, Reynoso Knows So on YouTube. And yeah, just keep up and hopefully we'll all grow together.
Oh, 100%. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode and make sure you stay tuned in with this guy because, man, this is one of the best interviews I've done. And I've had some pretty interesting people in this show. So it's like, it might be shale, I have to say. So,
Hey, shout out to you. Shout out to you, Sophia, because this is awesome. I'm always on the other side of the mic. You know, I'm in your seat usually. There's no reason to talk to me. So you took a little chance. You took a chance talking to me, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot.
you deserve more credit than when you do. So, I mean, that's my job. That's both of our jobs. We both do it, but I gotta hear more stories from all these other people in the field. So, especially like you, you have more interesting stories than a lot of people do, and you would be surprised. But I will see you guys next week, and I hope you guys enjoy.